is sal.
Sal.
And then tomato is tomato.
Tomato is tomato.
And then pumpkin is ifipush.
Pumpkin is ifipush.
Ifipush.
What are you putting them back?
And William, do you know how to say Happy Kwanzaa? Do you know how to say it?
Happy Kwanzaa.
No, Habarigani.
Baragan.
Yeah. Kwanzaa is the holiday after Christmas. So SLCA family, as we transition from Christmas to Kwanzaa, we want to send our peace and blessings to all of you and those who are celebrating. We set our table and we enliven our spirits in remembering where we've come from. Habarigani.
Habarigani.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone. My name is Dale Williams. I am a licensed practitioner, and I proudly serve with the Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. We are a center that educates and engages the speaker on their spiritual path. As a member of a global movement, Centers for Spiritual Living, our purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And our vision is a world that works for everyone. We want to thank you and welcome you for being with us today. Please join me as I say the call to service. How I choose to think creates my personal experience. Therefore, I choose to think affirmatively. I choose to speak affirmatively. I choose to live affirmatively. Not only is this my right, it is my responsibility as a conscious being. I allow myself to be guided, used, and available for the reawakening of everyone's magnificence. The moment is now, and I say yes. And so it is.
Habarigani, everyone. Habarigani is the key Swahili greeting that's given daily during the celebration of Kwanzaa. Habarigani means, what's the news? And since today is the first day of Kwanzaa, after you hear the Habarigani greeting, your response would be umoja, unity. I'm Koku Bui, and I serve as a member of the Creative Arts team here at SLCA. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Whether it's your first time, or you're watching from home, or you're a member, SLCA is where you belong. I am excited to tell you about opportunities to connect, grow, and serve and give here at our center. We would like to thank each of you that faithfully give to SLCA. To find ways to give, see the information on the screen. We will do our grateful giving later on in the service. We are also excited to announce that our SLCA youth program is back. Our teachers, I am one of them, are ready to welcome our youth of all ages each Sunday during service for a special opportunity to grow in our teaching. Register now for an incredibly special intention setting workshop with our own Reverend Dr. David Alexander on January 3rd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Order your SLCA workbook and SLCA notebook while supplies last by visiting our website at slca.com. Plan now to join us in person on January 2nd for our annual White Stone and Burning Bowl ceremony as we release 2021 and set our intention for 2022. If you wish to receive affirmative prayer this morning, please send us a message and we will provide your information to one of our licensed practitioners so they can reach out to you to arrange a time. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, SLCA fam. I am Gina Harris, one of your licensed spiritual practitioners, and I invite you into our affirmative prayer with me this morning. So if you could allow yourself to become comfortable in your seat, relax your face and your shoulders as I speak a word for and about our beautiful service today. Allowing yourself to turn within, closing your eyes if you're comfortable, as I recognize in this moment that there is truly one life, one power and one presence, that it lives, moves, and breathes within me, that it is each and every day new within me, new as my life, new like the dawn. And knowing and recognizing that this power and presence is in, as, and through each and every one of us, that our entire community and our global community is united one in this presence. And it is from this place that I speak a word for and about this service today, knowing and affirming that we step into this message, this beautiful message from Baji, that as our community comes together virtually, that we know, live, move, and breathe from the newness of the light that is in each and every one of us, that we see light, know light, and live in this new dawn. And so with gratitude for a service well spent, for days and times together in love, in recognition of our lights, in recognition of our wholeness, and in recognition of truth, I let this word be, and we confirm it by together saying, and so it is. Amen, Ashe, Satnam.
With every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me. With every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me. As I open and allow, I know right here and now, I create a world where wonders never cease. With every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of the ancestors. We are the Spirit of God.
We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust,
and sons of great vision. We're sisters sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're keepers of truth, seekers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of the ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of the ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
You, created only a little lower than the angels, have crouched too long in the bruising darkness, have lain too long face down in ignorance. Lift up your faces. You have a piercing need for this bright morning dawning for you. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Lift up your eyes upon this day breaking for you. Give birth again to that dream. Lift up your hearts, for each new hour holds new chances for a new beginning. Do not be wedded forever to fear. The horizon leans forward, offering you space to place new steps of change. Here, on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out, and into your sister's eyes, and into your brother's face, and say simply, very simply, with hope, good morning. So I say to you, good morning, and Habari Gani. Happy first day of Kwanzaa. And I would like to walk over and light the first candle for Umoja, unity. We will allow that candle to burn through this presentation. For those of you unfamiliar with the principles and rituals of the African-based celebration of Kwanzaa, I encourage you to follow the informative video clips that the Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta will be posting through each of the 7 days of Kwanzaa, from December 26th through January 1st. It is an honor for me to deliver the last message for 2021. My name is Dr. Baji Daniels. I have been in spiritual service locally, regionally, and nationally for many years. I proudly serve at SLCA as one of the licensed spiritual practitioners, and also I serve as one of its board members. I share this biographical information because I know some of you are sitting there either at home or wherever you may find yourself, and you're wondering, who is she and why is she the speaker today? Well, I am here because I was invited to speak to you this morning, and I remember that it was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. who said that the most segregated hour of Christian America is 11 o'clock on Sunday. Well, that is certainly not true here at SLCA. And if it were true, I would not have been a member here for 20 years. SLCA is a diverse and inclusive community that recognizes and honors many different people from all walks of life and all spiritual paths. And that includes honoring various social and cultural holidays and traditions, such as Kwanzaa. I believe that understanding and honoring our differences makes all of us wiser and stronger. How fortunate we are to be part of that global movement that was referenced earlier, the Centers for Spiritual Living. These centers exist all over the world, and the founder of this teaching, Ernest Holmes, studied all the world's great religions, and he correlated that knowledge with science, and he created this magnum opus known as the Science of Mind textbook, over 600 pages. I've read it more than once and will continue to read it again and again, because this philosophy has helped me personally, and I consider the contents of that book an extraordinary gift for my life, and the people that I've shared it with have said the same. The more I lean into it, the more it continues to inform and inspire me. Ernest Holmes always said before his talks, there is a power in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. The theme of my talk today is a CSL theme, the light of a new dawn, the light of a new dawn. And my presentation will amplify some of the global vision that CSL holds. Number one, that all life is interconnected, that all people, all beings, and therefore all life everywhere is a divine expression of God. Also, that every person has a right to live in alignment with the highest spiritual principle that emphasizes unity with God and connection with one another. And lastly, humanity is awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought. So my intention this morning is to share the sacred knowledge that seems to have been so overlooked so long by so many people who continue suffering terribly. Since the nature of life is expansive, expressive, affirming, and forgiving, I know that this is also the truth of who I am. I know there is no sky god up there keeping score of my misdeeds, and so I and you as well must just acknowledge when we go astray, when we make a mistake, and forgive ourselves first. Make apology if need be, and then do better the next time. Give yourself and others a little grace. The world needs each of us here. Otherwise, we would not be present. Now is the time for us to show up and demonstrate our spiritual maturity. Well, spiritual maturity. Before I talk about that in more depth, I have to acknowledge that the last 2 years have been very challenging, right? This COVID pandemic has brought us into places that we didn't think we would go. And I'm speaking emotionally and mentally. I get it. And I know that it's taken a toll on people's mental health. Sometimes when I read about the horrific things that are happening in the world and even in my own community, I find myself saying, people have lost their mind. But I have to bring myself back and remind myself that there's the light of a new dawn. And there is always going to be a dark night of the soul, but I keep my attention on the light of the new dawn. I have to remember that the sun is always shining, even when I can't see it. And underneath the snow, nature is preparing for its spring appearance. Social structures will break apart, but new ones are being created. But when we're having that dark night of the soul that seems like it will never end, when someone says there's the light of a new dawn coming, it might be a little hard for us to accept it. But this is where the spiritual maturity comes in. Because when we read and we study and we meditate and we talk to others who have read and studied and who know more than we do, they have said the same thing. There is a dawn and there is the light. And so I know that that's just what it is. It is coming. And that is part of the good news that I bring in my message to you today. I don't need to expound on the dark night of the soul because I know we've all been there. That's the gut-wrenching suffering that we experience from personal loss, the overwhelming sadness, our grief, the despair, the numbing sense of loneliness and hopelessness and sense of worthlessness, and a profound fear that pierces so deeply that breathing seems unmanageable. But we're here now. We can breathe now. And so I ask right here in this moment, take a breath, breathe, and let it go. And in this moment now, we are not in a dark place. We are listening to this talk, and we are remembering what Louise Hay said. Louise Hay said, most people are doing the best they can, given what they know and understand. If they knew more, they would do things differently. And so this is part of the good news. I am taking a parable from the Bible. When I think of dawn and light, I think of newness and purity and brightness and the Advent. And in the Bible, the Advent was signaling the coming of the Savior. And now as metaphysicians, we understand that the coming of the Christ is the coming of the Christ consciousness. And it's always coming to us. It's always beckoning us to look within and recognize its presence. But in the Bible, it speaks about a parable that Jesus the Christ taught. He was a masterful storyteller, as we know. And in the parable of the talents, he's telling the story of a man that was journeying to a far land. And he decided to leave his 3 servants with his goods. And so he called them before him. And I need to say that the word talent is meaning measurement or the weight of silver. It was the treasure of the day. So he called these 3 servants before him. And he recognized that they did not all have the same ability, so he did not give them all the same amount of talent, but gave according to their ability. And the first servant received 5 talents. The second servant received 2. And the third servant received only 1. Well, after a long time, the man returned to his home. And once again, he called the servants back to him. And he wanted to find out what they had done with their talents. And so the first 2 said that they had doubled their talents. The first one from 5 had doubled it to 10. The second one with 2 had doubled it to 4. And then the third man, he said, well, how about you? And he said, I kept your talent safe. I was afraid somebody would rob me. So I buried it in a safe place in the earth. But his master was not pleased when he heard that. To the first 2 servants, he said, well done, my good and faithful servants. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. But because he was so displeased with the lack of inaction for the third servant, he said to him, for unto everyone that hath shall be given, and they shall have abundance. But from them that hath not shall be taken away even that which they have. This is a hard lesson to hear and to learn from. But it's a parable about spiritual consciousness and spiritual law. To gain a better understanding of the law and how it acts in accordance with our level of awareness of God, I have been enjoying this book that someone recently recommended to me by Irvin Seal. His book is Learn to Live, a New Thought Interpretation of the Parables. And what it is emphasizing is that the real wealth of life is the mind. A spark of awareness has been placed in each one of us at birth, but it must be cultivated in order for us to live well-balanced and happy lives. As we become more and more aware of life and how life works, we are able to be, to do, and to have more. Our mind is really our only true power. The 3 servants represent 3 different levels of consciousness. The third servant, that lowest level, the one that buried his talent, is operating only from the physical sensory realm, where everything is determined by our basic 5 senses. On this level, we are fear-based and ego-driven, hesitating, doubting, waiting, always waiting. The next level of consciousness, represented by the servant who had been given the 2 talents, represents a higher level of consciousness. It's a 2-talent person. In other words, the person is still externally driven and not thinking too deeply about spiritual matters, but at least this person is willing to work really hard to manifest their desires. But there's a higher level yet. And this was represented by the 5-talent individual who doubled his talent because he had doubled his perceptions about life. His mind is operating far beyond the conditions of his physical environment. He understands that it is not the world causing his personal circumstances. Rather, it is his mind and the limitations of what he is thinking about. He knows that he is a spiritual being supported by the unlimited power of God, and he knows how to use it in the right way. If you want to think about and know what your level of consciousness is, and whether you might be at the level of the first person or the second person or the third person, scan your life. Scan your life. Look at the conditions. Take an inventory. And if need be, make adjustments where needed. None of us are masters yet. So we may find in one area that we're very strong, operating like the 5-talent consciousness, but in another area we may be hiding our talent in fear. So the important thing to remember is that the law is impersonal. It acts according to what we give it. You may be a person who works hard, but if you're thinking all the time that if I don't work hard, I'm going to lose what I have, then that is not making the best use of your spiritual consciousness. It's an unlimited world, and the law is going to meet you where your mind is. Ernest Holmes said, every person is surrounded by a thought atmosphere. This mental atmosphere is the direct result of thought, which in its turn becomes the direct reason for the cause of that which comes into our life. That's how Ernest Holmes wrote. I'll put it this way. As I think, so it is. So if I want a better experience in my life, I'm going to bring some better thoughts into my mind, a higher level consciousness. That's the good news message that I wanted to bring to you today. That's the good news message that is behind the light that is dawning for a new day. And you can start today. You can start in the morning. You can start the next day. There is always an opportunity. The law and life is here for us to use, to enjoy, and to create happy life experiences. That's why I use the Kwanzaa principles, because each of those principles, and you'll learn about them as you watch the video clips through this week, but each one of those principles keep me grounded in what is important in my life so that I am operating at a 5-talent level of consciousness. I thank you for listening. I bless you, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Peace.
Thank you for joining us today. My name is Shannon, and I'm honored to serve as the Executive Director at the Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. On behalf of our team, I thank you for your pledges and contributions this year, as it has helped us tremendously to maintain our spiritual home, provide for our staff, and to connect with so many across the country. As we move into 2022, I ask that you join with me in knowing abundance for our center as we come together in sharing our vision of a world that works for everyone. We have an exciting year planned for you as we continue to grow in this teaching. Your contributions are so very important to our center, as it allows us to plan for our budget for the year and serve so many that are waiting to hear our message of You Belong. If you are currently not a pledger, please consider becoming one today by visiting slca.com/donations. It's easy to set up a recurring gift. As always, you can text your contribution to 404-800-9467. If you would like to give a year-end gift or stock donation, contact our center and we will be happy to assist you. Please join me as I say our grateful giving. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly, and so it is. Happy Kwanzaa, and we look forward to seeing you in person or online Sunday, January 2nd, for our annual White Stone and Burning Bowl ceremony.